Before we start, I need a favor. Let me know in the comments what's been done right or wrong. This also helps me create better content for you all, and now we begin. It was supposed to be one night. In and out. Hike the ridge, pitch camp, share some drinks, and leave before the heat rolled in. That's how Eddie talked me into it. You need to get out of your head, man, he said. No phones. No stress. Just trees. And for the first hour, it actually helped. The air was cooler under the canopy. The trail was steep but quiet. Our friend Shayna brought her camera and kept snapping photos like she was on a nature documentary. Jason, Eddie's brother, lagged behind as usual, but even he seemed lighter without the glare of a screen. We picked the first clearing we found, right beneath an enormous cluster of ancient oak. The kind with gnarled, twisting branches that looked like they'd been frozen mid-writhing. Someone said it looked like they were reaching. Someone else joked they were watching. Nobody laughed too hard. That night, the wind didn't move the trees. Not once. Not a single sway or creak, even though we could hear gusts in the distance. The air stayed still over our tent like the branches were shielding us. That should have been a good thing. It wasn't. At around midnight, Shayna woke me up. Said she'd heard something walking around the tent. A low scratch. Like bark on bark. I told her it was probably a raccoon or possum. She nodded, but didn't lay back down. Eddie said the same thing when he stirred an hour later. Said he felt like someone was staring at him through the mesh. That they'd crouched beside the tent and leaned in so close he could hear breathing. He unzipped the flap. Nothing. No rustling. No animal. Just silent trees. But the next morning we noticed the footprints. Not in the dirt. In the leaves above us. Like something had climbed down from the branches and pressed its weight into the canopy, crushing small gaps in the thick mat overhead. The shape wasn't quite right, elongated. Like fingers. Some of the twigs were bent in a way that didn't snap back. Jason, who'd never taken the whole thing seriously, was the first to suggest we leave early. I'm not trying to be funny, he said, but that's not natural. I've hiked this trail a dozen times. You know what drops leaves like that. We all shook our heads. He paused, looked up. Something that doesn't want us to see where it is. When Shayna checked her camera, half the photos she'd taken the day before were gone. Corrupted. The few that remained had odd blurs in the corners. One looked like a smudge across the frame, but when we zoomed in, you could see the shape of a face. Not human. No eyes. Just slits where they should have been. It was pressed to a tree, right behind me. I don't remember anyone being back there. By noon, we were packed. By 1, we were hiking fast. But the trail looked different. We'd marked it. Tiny cloth knots in the brush, scratched excess into bark. All gone. The trees looked wrong. Too tall. Too dense. That's when we saw the first carving. In the trunk of a split oak. 4 inside. 3 left. 1 waits. Jason stopped dead. What does that mean? Shayna didn't answer. I did. It means one of us never left. Jason kept spinning in place, reading the carving out loud. 4 inside. 3 left. 1 waits. Over and over. Like it would mean something different if he just said it enough. But it didn't. It meant what it meant. And the scariest part was that none of us had told him what it said yet. I'd read it to myself. Out loud, yeah, but barely. Whispered. And Shayna hadn't said a word. Jason, I asked carefully, how do you know what it said? He turned to me, and the look on his face stopped me cold. He didn't remember saying it. Not once. Said he hadn't even looked at the tree. Said he'd been staring at the ground. But when I checked my phone, there was a video playing. A short clip. 6 seconds. Shaky. Taken in portrait mode. It showed Jason standing under the tree. Alone. Reaching up. Touching the carving like it was pulsing. I didn't remember filming it. I don't even know how I had service long enough to send it to myself. Shayna took one look and said, "Nope. We're going back. I don't care if we have to cut through brush. We're not on the trail anymore." So we did. For 20 minutes, we tore through the undergrowth like our lives depended on it. No one spoke. No one stopped. We were bleeding by the time we broke through onto the trail again. But it wasn't the same trail. I recognized the layout, sure, but the trees had moved. Dead serious. Some of them were bent in the opposite direction now. Limbs shifted. And that twisted oak with the double trunk that we used as a landmark earlier? Gone. In its place was a much older tree, burned hollow and still smoldering at the base. Eddie whispered, "We're not outside anymore." That's when we saw the photo. Pinned to the trunk with a broken twig. It was us. All four of us. Sitting around the fire the night before. Except it wasn't right. In the picture, Shayna's face was scratched out. Deep. Like gouged with a nail. Jason's eyes were white. No pupils. Eddie was blurry, like he'd been moving even though the rest of us were still. And me? I wasn't in the picture at all. Just empty space where I'd been sitting. Shayna started hyperventilating. Jason whispered something I didn't catch. Eddie turned and looked back the way we'd come. "We need to go back to the tent," he said. I stared at him. "The tent we packed up and left behind?" Eddie nodded. He was crying. "But it's still there," he whispered. "I can hear it unzipping." The sound of nylon teeth. Slow. Rhythmic. A zipper being pulled up and down in the distance, like someone was opening it over and over just to make sure we heard. And we did. From every direction. Branches above us didn't sway. They breathed. Pulled in, like lungs. Exhaled something hot and humid. Jason turned and bolted. He ran downhill, through the saplings, screaming for someone named Rachel. He didn't know a Rachel. We never saw him again. Not all of him. But just before sunset, we heard something dragging through the woods behind us. Wearing Jason's voice. Calling our names. We made it back. Or at least, it looked like we did. Same clearing. Same trees. Same blackened fire pit where we'd left it hours before. But the tent. We'd torn it down. I remember folding it, stuffing it, tying the straps. Eddie helped. Shayna double-checked we didn't leave anything. And yet there it stood. Pitched. Clean. Zipped shut. Like we'd never touched it. Or worse, like something else had put it back. Shayna refused to go near it. She sat with her back to a tree, knees pulled to her chest, whispering to herself. I didn't ask what she was saying. I could tell by the rhythm it was some kind of prayer. She'd stopped blinking. Eyes locked on the tent flap like it might open any second. I asked Eddie if he remembered packing it. He just shook his head slowly. "No," he said. "I don't remember anything since we saw the picture." I knew I had to do it. I stepped closer to the tent. One step. Then another. A sudden click beneath my boot. Not a stick, not a rock, a camera. My phone, shattered in the dirt. And next to it? Another photo. The same shot as before. The four of us. But this time, everyone was scratched out except me. My face was clear. Smiling. But my hands? They weren't mine. Too long. Too many joints. Nails blackened and curling inward like claws. I dropped it. Turned to run. The zipper unzipped. I didn't look back, but I heard Shayna scream. One sharp burst that cut off too fast. Like someone clamped her mouth shut from the inside. I turned around and Eddie was gone. No sound. No branches breaking. Just absence. And the tent? Still zipped shut. But now there were shadows moving inside. I could see them. Two of them. Hunched. Elongated. Crawling along the seams like spiders with human arms. I grabbed the nearest branch and struck a fire against a rock until it caught. When I threw it, the flames lit up the inside of the tent just long enough for me to see. Jason's face pressed against the inside wall. No eyes. No mouth. Just skin stretched too tight over something else. Something grinning. The fire didn't burn the tent. Not even the fabric. It just smoldered for a second and went out. That's when I knew. It wasn't nylon. It was skin. Stitched together like canvas. I backed away. Made it to the ridge by nightfall. Hiked in silence until I saw lights in the distance. A ranger station. Real people. I thought I was safe. Until I stepped through the door and saw a new map posted on the wall. Fresh ink. New markers. A label for the trail we'd taken. And underneath it, scratched faintly into the plastic display case, the words: 4 inside. 3 left. 1 waits. I was the last one out. But something else followed me. They asked questions at the ranger station. The kind that didn't sound helpful, just like they were taking notes for a report that would disappear in a drawer. What trailhead? What time did you arrive? Who were you with? I answered. At least, I think I did. I know I told them names. Jason, Shayna, Eddie. The ranger looked up from his clipboard. That's funny, he said. Those 3, they were on the list last month. Found their car at the base lot. But they never checked in. I just stared at him. I wanted to scream, that's impossible. We all went in together, but the truth started unraveling in my mouth. I don't think we were ever on the list. Not the real one. Not the kind the living make. I didn't sleep that night. I booked a motel on the edge of town, one of those roadside places with half the bulbs missing from the sign. I didn't even take my boots off. I just locked the door, sat on the floor with my back against it, and waited for the sun. It never really came. Just a thin gray light that barely reached through the motel curtains. And that's when I noticed something new. A scratch. Not on the walls, on me. Down my left arm. Faint. Thin. But healing. I don't remember being cut. When I pulled back my sleeve, I saw it clearer. A single line, from elbow to wrist, like someone had unzipped my skin and stitched it back up. I checked my phone. New pictures. Ones I never took. All of them from inside a tent. My tent. Except I hadn't owned it since the trip. It burned, should've anyway. But now it was on my phone again, showing photos from inside, where someone was curled up asleep in the corner. Me. Except not quite. The hands were wrong. Too long. Too many joints. The same as the photo from the woods. I dropped the phone. Sat frozen for hours. I could feel something watching me from the bathroom mirror. The curtain shifted without wind. My reflection didn't move when I did. I left that morning and never went back. But ever since, no matter where I go, I hear the tent zipper at night. Just once. Slow. Deliberate. And outside every place I sleep, from Airbnbs to friends' couches, I find a twig stuck in the ground, holding up a Polaroid of me sleeping inside a tent I didn't pitch. 4 inside. 3 left. 1 waits. I don't know if I'm the one who left, or the one waiting. And now for our second story. Our site was supposed to be the only one on the ridge. That's why I picked it. I wanted quiet. Isolation. I'd been doing field audio for a docuseries on nocturnal animals. Just me, a parabolic mic, and a few trail cams. The kind of solitude people pay good money to find. When I hiked in, there was nobody. Empty lot. No footprints in the mud. No tire tracks on the service road. Even the ranger station was locked up. That first night? Peaceful. I set up my mic, turned on the thermal cam, and cooked noodles by headlamp. The stars were clearer than I'd ever seen. No wind. No planes. Just the occasional rustle of something small in the brush. I remember thinking this is perfect. But around 2 a.m., I heard it. A zipper. Quick. Sharp. And not mine. I turned off my recorder and listened again. Silence. Then, another ZZZK, followed by a low grunt. Human. Male. Maybe 20 yards downhill. I grabbed my flashlight and scanned the ridge. Sure enough, there was a tent below mine. Small, low to the ground, and glowing from inside like someone had a lantern on. That made no sense. There were no other bookings. I hiked down anyway, calling out as I went. Hey! Just making sure you're not lost. No answer. When I got closer, I realized something was wrong with the light. It wasn't yellow like a lantern. It was pinkish. Flickering, like light shining through something. Like flesh. The fabric of the tent wasn't nylon. It shimmered wrong when I got close. Wet. Translucent. I backed away. That's when the zipper started going again. Only this time, it unzipped from the inside and the outside at once. Two sliders pulling apart from opposite ends until the flap just fell open. There was nothing inside. No sleeping bag. No gear. Just an audio recorder. Exactly like mine. Still recording. The file name? finalnight.wave. I picked it up. My hands were shaking. And when I turned, there were two more tents up the hill. Neither had been there minutes before. And both were already zipped shut. I didn't sleep. Didn't go near those new tents either. Just backed up the hill, recorder clutched to my chest like it was a weapon, and sat with my back to a tree until dawn. Except, dawn never really came. Just a weird bruised sky like light filtered through skin. By morning, the new tents were gone. But the pink one? Still there. Still zipped shut. I should have left. But I needed to know. I hiked out, drove straight into town, and checked into the first library with a media room. Told the woman at the desk I was reviewing field recordings. She didn't ask questions. I plugged in the tape. It started with the usual. Cricket. Wind. My own breathing. Then static. Then a voice. Mine. But I hadn't recorded anything yet. I'm going down to the other tent, the voice said. There's someone inside. I never said that. And then, screaming. Flesh tearing. That zipper sound again, but not from canvas. From skin. Another voice cut in. Different. Garbled like it came from a throat not made for speech. It said, 4 inside. 3 left. 1 waits. My hand jerked back from the speaker. The playback kept going. I heard me again. Begging. Saying things I never remembered saying. Crying. Then silence. Then footstep. Then the tent zipping back up. That's when the screen lit up on the console. A file labeled, recording now. I wasn't touching anything. The recorder was off. But the system was logging a new file. I reached forward to stop it. And felt breath on my neck. The kind that fogs glass. Except the air in the room didn't change. I turned. Nothing. Just rows of black monitors, one of which was now playing a live feed of me standing there. Same room. Same clothes. But behind me on the screen? One of those flesh tents. Already pitched. Already zipped. The librarian came in to check on me. Asked if I was alright. I pointed to the screen. She didn't see anything. But she paused. Then asked, You said you were on Ridge 9? I nodded. She paled. There hasn't been a Ridge 9 in 15 years, she said. It got wiped off the maps after the fire. I left everything behind. Drove 6 states without stopping. I don't hike anymore. But I still wake up sometimes to hear the zipper. And I know the tent's not there. Not yet. But it's waiting. When I found the GPS unit, it was still wrapped in the same damp canvas I used to carry during field trips back in undergrad. I'd tucked it away years ago, assuming the battery was dead. But that morning, something made me dig it out of storage. The screen came to life. No delay. Just one set of coordinates blinking, with a soft beep every 5 seconds. I didn't enter anything. Didn't turn it on. But it was active. And it was telling me to go somewhere. I knew the range, an old state forest just past 2 shuttered ranger stations. I figured it had to be a prank. Some tech glitch. But I drove out anyway, half out of boredom, half chasing the thrill I hadn't felt since college. That whisper that you're about to uncover something no one else knows. 2 hours later, I was walking uphill through pines, halfway up a ridge the map said didn't exist. And then the forest just stopped. Trees stood dead still. Not broken, not burned. Just frozen in time, leaves grayed over, needles fallen into perfect rings around trunks, like everything had paused. But no sign of a campsite. I looked at the GPS. Still blinking. Still beeping. I should have turned around right there. But I kept walking. Until I found it. Not a tent. Not a fire pit. Just a clearing with 4 large stones set in a circle. And 2 pairs of boots. 1 adult. 1 child. Both sitting just outside the circle, facing inward. No prints leading away. No sign of struggle. Just the boots, and an old ranger's clipboard lying beside them. There was only one entry written in the log. They checked in. But they never checked out. And then in red ink underneath. You're next. I didn't bring that clipboard with me. But somehow? It's in my truck now. With my name filled in at the top. I should have driven straight to the city after that. But the gas light was blinking and the closest thing to civilization was a ranger outpost about 20 minutes away. I didn't expect anyone to be there. And at first, it looked abandoned. Lights off. Door unlocked. The air inside was cold like no one had opened it in years. But the check-in desk? Pristine. The clipboard sat exactly where it always would have. A neat pen next to it. A faded sign above. For your safety, please sign in. I knew better. I signed anyway. Not with my real name. Just a scribble. Something meaningless. I wanted to see what would happen. Nothing did. Until I left. I only made it 6 steps from the porch before I heard the wind shift. Not just wind. It was like every tree in the woods had just inhaled. The leaves went still. The forest went quiet. And behind me? The sound of paper flipping. I turned back. The check-in sheet was turning pages on its own. I ran back in, grabbed the clipboard, and flipped to the sheet I'd signed. My fake name was gone. In its place, my full name, date, time. Exactly accurate. I tore the page out, ripped it into 6 pieces, tossed them into the old cast-iron stove in the corner, and lit a match. They curled into ash. I thought it was over. But when I turned back to the desk, the clipboard was there again. Same place, same pen, same page, and my name was still written. Clearer this time, bolder, like the ink had soaked deeper. I bolted out the door, didn't even lock it, but as I reached the treeline, I stopped. Just for a second. Something had been carved into the bark of a pine right ahead of me. Fresh, still bleeding sap. It said, already signed. The trees were too quiet behind me. The kind of silence that waits to close in. We weren't the only ones on the trail that night. I saw the flicker of a campfire maybe half a mile off the old ridge loop. My girlfriend Mallory spotted it too. Relief washed over both of us. We'd been hiking out after hearing something wrong in the woods. Distant calls that weren't animals. That weren't words either. Like a language made of breath and bone. We shouted toward the fire. A man waved back. 3 tents, maybe 4. Some teens, maybe early 20s. They were playing music low, drinking cider from dented cans, laughing like it was a regular night. We told them what we saw. The clipboard. The boot. The tents that zipped from the inside and outside. One of them laughed and said, sounds like a creepypasta. Another toasted me with a can and said, I'll drink to that. Mallory tried harder. She told them about the check-in sheets, how names were rewriting themselves, how her own phone wouldn't let her delete her location history anymore. Every pin was stuck on that campsite. They weren't buying it. I pulled the GPS unit from my pocket. It had stopped blinking an hour ago. Dead. But when I held it out, it started again. Not toward us. Toward them. They stared at the screen. One of them said, that's weird, and laughed again, but it was a nervous kind. He looked over his shoulder at the tent behind him. Mallory tugged my arm. We have to go, she whispered. We can't help them if they're already part of it. We left them. It took us 2 hours to reach the lot. The ranger's truck was there, but empty. Clipboard on the seat. Open. Pen laid across. We didn't touch it. We drove straight into town. And then came back the next morning with the sheriff. But when we reached the campfire spot, there was no fire. No tent. No gear. Just 4 unzipped sleeping bags perfectly arranged around the fire pit. Still warm underneath. But the fire? Cold ash. And inside each bag was a folded slip of paper with a name. One name repeated. Mine. Written 4 times. We packed in 10 minutes flat. Mallory didn't even put shoes on. Just grabbed them and jumped in the passenger seat. I threw the truck in reverse and peeled out of the sheriff's station parking lot, not caring if anyone saw us go. We were done. Done with the woods. With the tents. With the whispers. We passed the Welcome to Pine Rock sign. Then the forest. Then that split in the highway where the ranger station sits empty behind a chain. Mallory squeezed my hand and kept saying, "Just keep driving. Just keep driving." So I did. 30 minutes passed. Then 45. Then an hour. And then I saw it. The Welcome to Pine Rock sign again. Same faded green. Same bullet hole in the corner of the O. Same crooked branch casting the same shadow across the pavement. I slammed on the brakes. Mallory started crying. I turned around. Drove the opposite direction. Tried the old service road this time. Then a different back highway. Even pulled over and checked my phone's map app. It had no idea where we were. The blue dot wouldn't move. The compass spun in slow circles. But no matter where we went, the road always curved back. Not in a sharp turn. Not obviously. Just gently enough that you never noticed until it was too late. Until the sign was there again. Mallory started hitting the window with her palm, screaming to let her out. She said she could hear it now. The zipping. From the trunk. We stopped the car. I opened the back. Nothing. Just our packs. But something was missing. The clipboard. I never touched it. But it was gone now. And tucked under the passenger seat where Mallory sat, was a single page, freshly torn. With our names. Underneath them. Checked in. 9:47 a.m. No checkout time listed. And written in the corner in red. Cabin available. The listing wasn't online. Not officially. I only found it because I searched for off-grid cabin rentals near Pine Rock, using an old forum link, buried on a thread where the last comment just said, "Don't knock." But it was there. No photos. No reviews. Just coordinates, a brief description, rustic, remote, fire pit, no signal, and a single line at the bottom. Arrive after dark. Leave before dawn. Mallory didn't want to go. But we were out of options. The road still looped. We were stuck in town, and every motel room was booked, though no other cars ever seemed to come or go. I booked it. Cash only. We found the trailhead and hiked in around sunset. By the time we reached the cabin, the air had that strange stillness again, where even your breath sounds like it doesn't belong. The cabin looked old, sure, but well kept. Fresh firewood stacked near the porch. Lanterns already lit on the windowsill, flickering like they'd been waiting. The door creaked open without a touch. Inside, no dust. No cobwebs. A clean bed. 2 plates already on the table. No sign of a host. No sign of anyone. Mallory didn't speak. Just walked in like her body had been here before. I followed. Shut the door behind me. And heard it lock. I turned around fast. Nothing was there. But the lock slid into place. From the inside. The next hour blurred. I tried to force the door open. Nothing. Tried the windows, shut tight. No phone signal. No GPS. Then we heard it. The sound of someone walking the perimeter. Not running. Not hiding. Just pacing. Slow, deliberate crunches of leaves in a circle around the cabin. Over and over. Then stopping. Right by the front porch. Mallory whispered, "They're checking." "What?" I asked. She didn't answer. Just pointed toward the door, where a piece of paper had been slid under it. A check-in slip. With 2 boxes. Only one was filled. Occupancy confirmed. And underneath, "Do not disturb." Still watching. Mallory shattered the window with a fire iron while I held my coat over it to muffle the glass. The air outside felt like stepping into a different season, heavier, thick with the scent of smoke and pine sap. We didn't wait. We ran. No path. Just trees. And the sound of footsteps following us from behind the cabin. Not fast. Just steady. Crunching leaves, snapping twigs, as if it didn't need to chase us. Just keep walking long enough and we'd circle back. Because that's what the forest wanted. To bring you home. We passed the same split-trunk oak 3 times before we realized it. Mallory stopped short and pointed. There was a cabin. Not the one we came from, Another. Same design. Same porch. Same flickering lanterns in the windows. But this one had 3 plates on the table instead of 2. I didn't want to know what that meant. We turned and ran again. There was another cabin. And another. Some with curtains drawn. Some with silhouettes at the window. Every one of them with the same clipboard on the porch. Every one of them showing a name. Sometimes ours. Sometimes other names we recognized, from the forums, from the missing posters in Pine Rock, from the trailhead sign-in logs that had seemed too full for such an empty forest. Mallory clutched my hand and whispered, "This isn't a forest. It's a neighborhood." We tried to scream, but even our own voices got swallowed up by the trees. We found the original cabin again. The fire was still burning inside. But the table now had 4 plates, laid out like a dinner invitation. There was no sign of whoever followed us, until we saw the fresh carving on the door. "Do not disturb. Guests are home." We never made it back to the road. But if you're reading this, and someone offers you a cabin near Pine Rock, don't check in, because someone already has, and you'll just be replacing them.